I asked a few friends, what would happen if you publicly shared your darkest, most embarrassing, most shameful story? Everybody said in so many words, I would die. I would die. Wow. I never knew dirty laundry was so lethal. Although it seems counterintuitive, picture yourself embracing the hot mess that got you into your worst trouble. Invite it over for a cup of tea, if you will. I promise it won't kill you. On the contrary, it will save your life. In the spring of 2014, my phone rings. Hello? The voice on the other end is a woman named Ellen Taylor. She tells me, my grown son has written a book and I need to know if it's any good. Well, it makes sense that she would reach out to me because I'm an author and a film producer, and I also help other people find, write, and share their stories. I quickly find out that her son's name is David, and he's done many extraordinary things in his 50-plus years. But there's no doubt that when David is successful, he greatly changes lives. Heck yeah, I'm in. What is he? A humanitarian? An inventor? One of those New Age thinkers that spout pearls of wisdom that end up as cat memes on Facebook? Ooh, I'm getting goosebumps. This is what I call real social work. However, in David's case, it's what the federal government calls human trafficking. What? David is in federal prison for conspiracy. He was convicted of smuggling undocumented aliens into the United States. Oh. Cue the needle scratch across the record. How could I possibly support somebody who smuggles humans? What would people think? What would I think? How can I even relate to that? How? I need the money. I'm a single mom going through a devastating divorce. I'm completely broke. I have one kid in college and another one about to enter college, and a mountain of debt I have no idea how I'm going to pay. My power is about to be cut off, but I'm too ashamed to ask for help. And then Ellen Taylor shows up and conveniently makes me an offer that's just too hard not to consider. But I'm torn because I need to focus on projects that will get me back on track financially, emotionally, creatively. And I'm pretty certain that a guy scribbling notes in prison for human smuggling is not my answer. Hey, universe, if I'm supposed to reach out and help someone in prison, why do I have to juggle that with a steaming side dish of round-the-clock family responsibility? Seriously, did Gandhi have carpool? Did Einstein spend hours on the phone justifying a health insurance claim? Did Eleanor Roosevelt ever once scream in frustration, "Who took the good scissors?" I want to move forward, but I'm paralyzed with fear by the hot mess that is my life. And I can't even imagine inviting that fear over for a cup of tea. I agree to read David's manuscript purely for mercenary reasons. I have no doubt that I will tell Ellen her son's story is crap. She will pay me, I will pay the electric company, and then that's the end of it. As expected, David's manuscript was full of typos, bad grammar, misspellings, and a shaky story structure at best. It meandered between first person and third person, and it had so much chit-chatty dialogue, you'd think those characters were being paid by the word to speak. And yet, I can't put it down. In all that jumble of a literary mess is a riveting, funny, poignant, character-driven story about a white-bread middle-class couple who, because of their own financial struggles, wake up one day and find themselves entrenched in the human smuggling business. At first, the characters do it because they need the money. But then with each run, they get to know the people coming across a little better. And in a very short time, their cargo evolves from shipping a commodity to giving hope and purpose to human lives. David and his small crew drive to the border town of Jacumba, California, where they pick up not illegal aliens, but people. Tired, poor, yearning to breathe free people. And as I read David's story, suddenly those people have names and faces, families, hopes, and dreams that are not unlike mine. And the only baggage they bring with them are their own stories. Stories that don't necessarily fit into the criteria of an immigration form, but nevertheless are just as important as those of those people coming across legally. David's story tells the war on illegal immigration from a boots-on-the-ground insider who just happens to be born a white U.S. citizen in middle-class America. It's a perspective on immigration from which we've never heard until now. Ellen asks me, is it any good? This moment right here, this is it. I could end it right now. I wanted to hate David's story because then that would have made it so much easier for me to just walk away and continue to embrace my self-pity. But for some reason, I can't dismiss an authentic story because it's truth. And that's all I want. So I come clean and I tell Ellen, yes, there is something here that needs to come out. And therein lies the crossroad. Here I am at the lowest point in my life, with my self-esteem hanging on by a thread and my creative tank running on empty. And I'm supposed to give what little energy I have to a writer in prison that I've never met who may or may not be receptive. Yes, Ellen will pay me, but it's not enough to get me back on track. And I doubt it'll lead to more work. I mean, who is this guy going to recommend me to? Other inmates? And then all the what-ifs kick in. What if I fail? What if people think poorly of me? What if it doesn't get published? Or worse yet, what if it does get published and everyone hates it? If any of that happened, I would die. Just as my head was about to explode, something startling occurred. I hit a wall. And I was forced to turn around and look into the face of fear. And then I realized I'm not running from David's story. I'm running from my own. And it's keeping me from what I'm meant to do. So I stop and smile at the hot mess that is my life. And I invite it over for a cup of tea. And you know what? I didn't die. Instead, I roll up my sleeves and I get to work. As it turns out, David is receptive to feedback, so much so that I have to add another story editor, Kelton Barney, to help me keep up with David's creative flow. I also bring on a copy editor, Elizabeth Evichuk, to catch all those AP English typewriting errors. I cannot believe the dedication David puts into this project. He takes into consideration every suggestion Kelton and I make. He reads every book on writing that I recommend. He reworks his manuscript like a sculptor chipping away at clay. My horizons also expand concerning our prison system and the simple freedoms we take for granted. Every time I send David a re-edited manuscript, I have to reprint all 400 plus pages. He edits by hand, sends it back, we edit on the computer, reprint, and then start that whole process all over again. This all goes back and forth via snail mail, and the feds read everything. So it could take weeks before the manuscript arrives in its final destination. And if I want David to study a book, His mom has to send it to him from Amazon because nobody except for approved vendors are allowed to mail inmates anything outside of papers and letters. And for some reason, for over a year, I was not allowed to email David, and then one day I was miraculously allowed to do so. I still don't have an answer for that. Email is spotty to this day. And 3 times, David was able to call me, but we were only allowed 15-minute phone calls. We discussed manuscript notes, but at 15 minutes on the dot, the line goes dead. And every few seconds, this recording comes on, reminding me that I'm talking to a federal prisoner, which ironically eats up precious phone time. But in spite of all of that, after 2 years of this wacky creative process, David's book, Jacumba Connection, is slated to be published and released this summer. And the movie version is in pre-production right now. And I'm the screenwriter, and David is an executive producer from prison. I suggest David, to keep his creativity alive, start a blog, because just like immigration, he now has an insider's view of prison. He agrees, so we bring on webmaster Doug Hoffman, and as a result, postcardsfromprison.net is born. Now, I know you're all dying to read David's blog and eventually his book, but you're probably sitting there wondering, how well can this guy really write? Well, I'll let you be the judge. This is a note from David to his team expressing how this journey has freed him from an incarceration greater than the 4 walls of any prison. Obviously, he can't be here today, but these are his words, and I quote, "Dear Stacy, Kelton, Elizabeth, Mom, and Dad, there's something I want you to know and understand, and that is about the gift. You read my story and found something, a possibility, a spark. You never asked about my being a convict, an inmate, or why I was incarcerated. You held no prejudice. A little backstory. When I write, it's around a table in the TV room. It seats 5, but my dictionary, pens, manuscript take up 3 places. Little Mo Pimp strolls up to my table and says, "Yo, OG," which stands for Old Gangster. "Every time I rolls up on you, you just be scribbling and scribbling. I gotta ask, dawg, why?" My answer? Because, Little Mo, I can't fly. And inside that statement is the magic, the gift. You see, when I'm writing, I'm on the other side of the razor ribbon with you guys in the free world, working on our story. Learning from you guys how to fly, the gift you've given me is this: hope and purpose. Prison will eat your soul and then spit out the gristle, but not if you have hope and purpose. I want to thank you for all the extras on my behalf, the reams of paper, the runs to Staples for printer ink, the bonsai runs to the post office, and of course the midnight editing sessions. All things you do to accommodate a writer in prison. We have created a jewel here. The political timing is perfect. I know in my heart our project is going to do big, big things, but nothing compared to the gift of saving my soul. Like they say here, I recognize, best illustrated in the movie Avatar. I see you, Stacy Dymalski. I see you, Kelton Barney. I see you, Elizabeth Evichuk. I see you, Mom and Dad. May Ewa hold you in her heart forever. Your student, David. Ironically, helping David tell his story allowed me to regain my creativity and helped me rediscover my own soul in one of the darkest periods of my life. Sharing personal stories unites us. Whether you're a single mom in Utah, an undocumented worker in Los Angeles, or an inmate in federal prison, it levels the playing field and breeds compassion in a world that desperately needs to understand the commonality of being human. So from this day forward, I want you to own up to your own story, no matter how shocking or shameful or scary it may be. If we're lucky, we survive our mistakes. If we're smart, we learn from them. So instead of fleeing a narrative you can never outrun, simply stop, look it in the eye, smile and say, "How about you and I go for a cup of tea?" Thank you.